Tables and figures enable authors to present a large amount of information efficiently and to make their data more comprehensible. Building a table will enable you to communicate information in a succinct and meaningful way. We will be covering basic formatting of tables, how to cite sources within tables, and how to edit tables in word processors. The examples will be used with Microsoft Word, but the techniques are transferable for other text editors. Information about formatting tables in APA can be found in Chapter 7 in the APA Manual on Tables and Figures, which we will be using primarily for this video. To start with, let's look at an example related to an assignment. The table number should be bold and left aligned. The title of the table should be in title case and italicized. The table should be aligned to the left margin. Tables can either be embedded in the text of the paper or placed on a separate page after the references. If you are not sure about table placement options, ask your course instructor for specific instructions. Use the same font in tables as the rest of your paper. The line spacing in the tables may be single-spaced, 1.5, or double. In this example, I chose 1.5 or 1.5 because it appears to balance the text and space, but this may vary for you and your reader. Headings should be centered and in regular font, not bold. Most of the cell entries should be centered. However, the entries under the header of the leftmost column, called the stub heading, should be left aligned, unless the entries are significantly shorter than the header, such as with numerals. In that case, center the entries. Also, if your entries are longer than a line, left align the cell entry and give it a hanging indent of 0.15 inches or 1 em, which we'll make later with the ruler indent tabs. Now, you might be wondering what an em is. An em is a typographical term for type sizes such as 11 or 12 point and is about the span of a capital M of a given font size. The em gets its name from the fact that in early fonts, the em was usually cast on a square body. The point is, though, that a length of an em provides space enough to create an indent. Don't worry if you don't have an exact em, just try to provide enough of an indent for your reader. We'll get into this when we talk about editing tables. Tables can include 3 types of notes at the bottom to clarify the table content: general, specific, and probability. Notes aren't required, but they can be helpful for explaining abbreviations. Notes provide copyright attribution for adapted or reprinted tables, and clarify other details within a table. Section 7.14 on page 203 provides more information on the use of table notes. One recommendation, though: if you happen to have a group author with a long name, you can use a general note to define an abbreviated group author in order to keep the table looking clear. This gives us a start towards making our own APA tables. Now let's focus on citing sources within a table. APA advises that if a table contains citations to other works, follow the formats described in section 8.11. Use an ampersand for the word "and" in all citations and tables to conserve space. Table 7.4 in section 7.21 shows an example of a table containing citations to studies included in a meta-analysis. This simply means you'll use in-text citations in the cells of your table where appropriate and in the most succinct form possible. Now, in something like a drug analysis, you might have multiple sources with the same author and date. If your authors and dates are identical, use letters in alphabetical order starting with A after the publication date. If you don't have a publication date, add a hyphen after the initials ND, as seen in the third example on page 267. And remember to use the same lettering for the corresponding references. Now let's create a table for editing. First, number the table in bold format. Then add a title in title case and in italics. Next, insert a table. Let's add 6 columns by 8 rows. Then remove the vertical borders. After that, type your column headings, centered and in sentence case. In this case, I added some space before the text in order to center the headings. You might not need to do this, but this can help you even out the table spacing if you're having trouble with vertical alignment. Now you can add information or data in the cells. Remember that the entries under the stub heading to the farthest left are left aligned unless they are significantly smaller than the heading. All other cell entries should be normally centered. For more details, see the APA Style page on Table Setup. For future reference, you can save APA Style templates for other projects. You can also simply save tables you've made in a separate document for future use. Now that we have a table set up, let's consider a few editing strategies. If your cell entries are longer than a line, add a hanging indent of about 0.15 inches, or 1 em. You can do this by using the indent tabs on the ruler at the top of the document. If you can't see the ruler, go to View and select Ruler. You might have noticed that the cell entry is too long to be readable. Consider formatting your table in two parts, like in this example. If your table is too wide, try applying a landscape format by adding section breaks for the next pages by going to Layout, click Breaks, and selecting Next Page under Section Breaks. You can view the page breaks by clicking on the paragraph marks. This will allow you to designate a part of your paper for longer tables. If your table is too long as it spans pages, try using repeating headers so that your column headers repeat automatically on the following page. To do this, select the headings, go to Layout, and click on the Repeat Header Row button. You can also select the heading, right-click, and select Table Properties. Click on Rows and select the box that reads Repeat as Header Row at the top of each page. We've covered how to format tables in APA, how to cite within tables, and how to edit tables using a word processor. We can also understand that information involves creative processes requiring consistent form in order to make scholarship readable and meaningful. If you have any trouble or questions about APA tables, feel free to ask us. You can chat, call, email, or meet by video. Talk to you soon.